Welcome back to some more World and Economica. Where I last left off, we are apparently Hal supposed to go shopping with the Hagana. So let's continue reading. I was about to tease her by mentioning how it was quite rare for her to agree with me, but in the end I kept my mouth shut. It was because that side profile looked terribly sad. Looking at her visage, I ended up remembering what Lisa had said. Lisa had wondered if perhaps Hagana had been bought with money. A girl who might have a past like that, agreeing sadly that God didn't exist, left a very deep impact. Uncomfortable at the silence, I veered the situation back towards talking. So, what was it like, the place you're from? Eh? Weren't you born on Earth? What was the sky like? Was it something like was it something that when you stared at it would make you wonder if God lived there? Since Hagana apparently had hidden her origins from even Lisa, she probably wouldn't tell me anything related to where she was from. Thinking about that made me kind of want to ask. I really didn't have any knowledge of Earth other than through footage, and I had never asked anyone what the sky was like. Surprisingly, Hagana replied while looking up at the sky. It looked kind of like what it does here. You mean like the moon? Yes, there were lots of mountains and many cliffs. The trees had a ton of prickly things that would prick you if you touched them. Winter was cold and summer was short. There was a lot of fog, a gray place. Even if I hadn't visited Earth, I had a rough image of Earth's geography. Cold winters would point to the northern hemisphere, and a place where conifers grew had to be quite high in latitude. But as she continued speaking, Hagana squinted and tried to peer through the dome at the spot where the Earth stood. Sometimes it would clear up and the sky was very blue. The lushness of everything would only shine during those moments. It probably wasn't a bad lie to say that this was something created by God. At the end, added in something surprisingly thoughtful. However, from that tone, I didn't think that her days were always happy where she grew up. There might be rough folks back home who'd be able to guess where she came from. However, I still couldn't fathom a sky so blue that it would make someone wonder if it was created by God. A blue sky would just be the dome covering a lunar city, created scientifically. However, there wouldn't be one person to look at that and think without a doubt that this was created by God. And thus, compared to Earth, the moon probably didn't have much of a sky. Hearing the folks from Earth priding themselves over where they came from would merely irritate me, but all that Hagana had said led me to want to take a look for myself. While pondering those things, I looked up at the dome with Hagana. Instead of talking about this, let's go get this clothes shopping done already. Hagana, however, looked back down and spoke to me officiously. Hmm. For me, who had felt a bizarre closeness to Hagana, it felt like being suddenly pulled out of a dream. Yeah. So, which store should we go to? She asked me with the usual cold gaze. Before I answer, why would you think I know the answer? Didn't you instantly find where those flowers would be? So why wouldn't you be able to find a clothing store? Isn't this obvious? Are you an idiot? That's what her furrowed eyebrows were saying to me. Going beyond anger, I replied contemptuously. Contemptuously. Oh, it is as you have so eloquently praised. However, a trifling small matter that still remains. Why must I toil and seek out wonderful garments for your highness? Perhaps you could care to enlighten me on this matter? I have no idea what you just said. She returned my sarcasm with a cold tone and an astonished expression. Please repeat it. And with that single phrase, I ended up having to acquiesce. Acquiz acquizzes or whatever that word is, being at a loss for words. Hagana was staring at me as if there were some bizarre person in front of her. Lisa, Hagana, there sure were a ton of annoying women out around here. Shut up. Alright, I got it. You're so annoying, sheesh. You got it? What did you get? I really got angry, but even I knew how embarrassing it was to yell at a girl in the middle of the street. I swallowed my words and Hagana looked at me with even more suspicious eyes. Ignoring Hagana, I took out the computer from my bag and turned it on. And during the few seconds of booting, Hagana let loose a fully drawn arrow. What's this? Are you an idiot? True, I probably was the one being an idiot. Looking at me, she shrugged, implying that it was totally impossible for her to comprehend. I really wanted to make her cry uncle someday, but I couldn't figure out where to start. Reeling in my impotent anger, I searched for clothing shops like I was her servant. And then, as I stared at the computer screen, I realized the moment to make her cry uncle might be coming up sooner than I thought. Here, I found it. Okay? Looking at Hagana nonchalantly answering me, I chuckled to myself. On the computer screen were arrayed various shops that sold clothes that had been thrown away in the White Belt in Noon City on the cheap. There was one store that stood out among the rest. Lisa was probably talking about this store, I guess. As long as I used the magical word, Hagana wouldn't say no. Over here. Leading Hagana, I went up the stairs and traversed an aerial corridor that spanned the shopping streets. This aerial corridor connected hallways between buildings, and each floor contained one walkway lined with shops. I stood in front of one shop as I looked down at the stream of crowds. This shop was carved out of the cliff wall that a building was leaning against. It was a common way to save money on construction costs. However, what made me smile with satisfaction was that I had wagered that the shop would have this type of appearance. Fancy Mall Luna, magical fashion. The sign was written in a cringeworthy font that would make most people faint. Inside the store were fantastic things that one would wonder who'd ever want to try on. It would be the antithesis of the math-loving Hagana, clad in black from head to toe. The store was full of apparel with polka dots and gaudy stripes, or dyed in colors that would make people's eyes bleed. On either side of the entrance was a mountain of red plastic hair clips and strange, seemingly useless wooden badges. I heaved a sigh when I realized that all the goods here were something profitable to someone, whether they were shipped from Earth or made with the limited resources of the moon. I really felt the weight of the fact that not everyone doing business on the moon was an upstanding person. Just by peering into the shop, one could see many girls with their heads in the clouds. If the black-clad Hagana were to step in here, it would be as if a witch had entered the premises. I was chuckling at that imagery when Hagana came to a stop and placed her hand on the door handle. I had totally thought she'd be intimidated, and was truly shocked at her composure. With that, Hagana opened the door, then turned around and asked me, "What? You think something like this would scare me off?" I ended up imagining her saying that to me when faced with her cold gaze. However, this might still just be her acting though. Nothing? I answered, pretending nothing was wrong. I see. Hagana gave me an easy reply and went into the shop. But as she was about to close the door, she looked as if she'd forgotten something and turned around. "You're not coming? Huh? Didn't Lisa say to buy the clothes at this store?" Yeah, but it doesn't look like where I'd be able to shop. I might break out in hives if I actually went into the store." After listening to me, Hagana looked back and forth between me and the shop and tilted her head. "Then, I also want to shop where you'd be able to shop." "Huh? We'd be able to get a discount if we all bought at the same place." Such a lively line made me pause, but I was more at a loss for words due to how terribly logical this was. In either case, it looked like my highness planned to make Hagana dress up in embarrassing pink and white polka dot apparel. Wasn't going to go well. You wouldn't believe how good it would make me feel to see Hagana all embarrassed in front of such fancy clothing. Not wanting to lose a chance at that enjoyment, I tried to make excuses. "No, well, but you see, I don't care if it's male clothing. If the clothes go with you, there'd be no issue of it not working for me." Hagana, with her graceful face and slim hands and feet, stood up straight and proclaimed earnestly. With that, there was no way I could form a rebuttal. It was so bad that I was able to imagine how she looked dressed up as a boy, and I thought subconsciously that it wouldn't be all that bad. I had been moaning and groaning about this and had gotten a lot of astonished looks from inside the store, so I decided to abandon my prank. Though Lisa would have enjoyed this prank too if she had learned of my scheme. So, where are you going to shop? I opened up my computer again and looked for a normal, cheap clothing store. She truly was a tough customer. I was in the middle of searching for shops while swearing in my head when Miss Hagana! I heard someone call out. Is it Chris? I looked up and turned in the direction of the voice, and in the aerial corridor 2 to 3 floors below, there were a few people around Chris's age who appeared to be elementary school students. They were full of excitement looking up at us. What the? As I was whispering to myself, a brown haired girl I happened to make eye contact with got all bubbly, cupped her hands over her mouth, and whispered to the kid next to her, Friends of yours? I asked Hagana, and she replied quietly, Hmm, quietly. Students. Oh? Goodbye, Miss Hagana. And then the gossiping girls gave us big waves and big smiles. There were, incongruously, two boys next to them who were struck dumb with amazement as they looked our way. Then the girls pulled the dumbstruck boys by the ears and brought them with them, disappearing into an alley by the building on the opposite side. What's with that? I said that, a little confused, but then I looked at Hagana and was even more surprised. She was waving back at them with a light smile. What? However, once she noticed me looking at her, that smile vanished. You could say there was rather an unfair difference in attitude, but it's not like I was actually flustered by her smile. I was just totally shocked at how her expression became so gentle once she started smiling. Nothing. I suppressed my excitement, telling myself that it was only because it looked nice. And then, once I had regained my composure, I spoke. I was surprised to see that you really are a teacher. It wasn't wrong to say that I was surprised at that, and thus it wasn't a lie. She was something, all right. Those kids didn't look like the type who listened to her, but they'd all become adoring fans. At least it was something I couldn't do. It's just teaching math, so even I could at least do it. I was again surprised at her unusual modesty, and looking at her strangely tough expression made me wonder if she was a bit embarrassed. However, that's the only thing. Huh? Looking off into the distance in the direction where the kids disappeared, she whispered, That's the only thing I can do. What do you mean? Being able to do that is pretty good, isn't it? I replied innocently, and Hagana shut her eyes and then slowly opened them. Math isn't something that can solve the real problems of the world. I had ended up staring at her profile without noticing. Normally she'd glare back at me with a what, but she merely glimpsed at me for a second, then continued looking far off into the distance. Perhaps she was just talking to herself? That was probably the case. Sold for her talents and brought to the moon, she had decided to run away from home for some reason. Plus, Lisa had talked a bit about Chris's circumstances. She was smart, loved to learn, and would skip out on lunch to earn money to pay for her tuition with Hagana and learn math from her. However, despite all that, it wasn't clear whether she'd be able to get into college with a scholarship that could easily be the biggest gamble of her life, one that could bring her out of poverty. Hagana most likely knew about Chris's family situation, and thus, with that problem in front of her, it must have been painfully obvious to her how little power her math had on everything. Therefore, while looking at her from her side, I could feel my heartbeat rising faster as well. In my head was the idea of using math to trade stocks. On the rare chance that Hagana could accomplish that, she'd probably also be able to solve a lot of problems that have been troubling her. I reflected upon Hagana's expression as she waved cheerfully back to her fond students. From my personal viewpoint, Hagana would simply be an annoying person. However, in reality, that might not be the case. And if that were the case, I was about to ask her something and drew in a big breath. But at that moment, Hagana suddenly turned towards me. Did you find a shop? Having been asked straight up, I swallowed my words and returned my gaze quickly to the computer. Yeah. Where? Before I could answer, Hagana appeared out of my computer screen with her usual squinting eyes. I guess it's around here. And then she walked off. Uh, my vision chased after Hagana, and I was about to say something, but nothing came out. I had totally screwed up the timing. I stood there dumbfounded. Hagana, who had gotten to the edge of the steps leading down, turned around to look over my way. Why aren't you coming? Upon those words, I shut my computer like an obedient kid. Hagana, playing the part of the parent, swung her head back arrogantly and started walking again. I didn't really have to force myself to broach the subject. I should just find an opportunity to talk to her about it after I get back to the church. Having made my decision, I went to catch up to Hagana. Okay. Why is something at this level of craftsmanship 20 mules apiece? She had grabbed a piece of clothing from my arms, set it on the counter, and spat those words out. The clerk, who had been fixing a frayed spot on some item, looked up at Hagana confusedly. Oh, this is a nice scene right there. What? Oh, shit. Huh? Why is it that the clothes over here are better made from better materials even though they're 20 mules for two pieces? I had chosen a used hoodie that cost 20 mules. On the moon, which relied on importing all sorts of things, clothing was far more expensive than food. Really? I can tell that buying a pair of Nike shoes costs over $100. Jesus Christ. Steam games are just fucking cheaper than this shit. Grains had priority over cotton and hemp in the limited sized fields of the moon. You wouldn't die from being naked if the orbital elevator were to stop working and clog up imports, but you could die of hunger. Therefore, even for used apparel, 20 mules apiece wasn't exactly that expensive. Besides, it was in pretty good condition. It was probably leftovers from mass retailers in the White Belt in Newton City. However, Hagana put even more pressure on the store clerk. Did this get the wrong price tag? No, this is the brand name item and thus the higher price. But something from the same manufacturer was in that section for 10 mules apiece. Huh? But that one's short sleeve. This one's a long sleeve, so it uses more fabric. Then why is this 3/4 sleeve item the same price? There's no consistency here. The clerk was taken aback by Hagana's words, stared at her, and then sighed annoyingly. Oh, shit. Goddamn allergies coming back again. Look, are you trying to tell me to lower the price? Yes. Well, we don't give discounts here. That's odd, even though you have a discount aisle? Those are on discount because it works out for us. Works out for us, my ass! I got it. We weren't coming here today to just buy this. We also came here to buy these. Saying this, Hagana took out what was apparently clothing for herself from the shopping basket by her feet and placed them on the counter. What left me dumbfounded was the fact that in the basket were a black blouse, a black skirt, and a pair of black stockings. Black stockings is amazing. We appreciate your business. How much cheaper would they be together? No, we really don't do discounts. Our margins are already paper thin. Then why do you discount stuff you can sell? Yeah, exactly. I fucking go to like a fucking clothing store like, I don't know, Macy's, Nordstrom, fucking TJ Maxx. I don't know. Leave your clothing stores in the comments. Well, they're leftovers, so... Well then, think of it this way. If we don't buy this stuff, it'll remain unsold and become leftovers. That was some ridiculous logic. Unsurprisingly, the clerk thought it as ridiculous as I did. Look, we priced this at 20 mules because we believe it would sell at that price. When we announce a price drop to 10 mules, you can come back and buy it then. There's a chance it would get sold before then. Therefore, I like to buy it in advance by adding 3 mules to the 10 mule discount price. The clerk pulled back and looked down at Hagana whilst twisting his lips. I looked at the two somewhat nervously. Didn't I say this was a pretty good item? It'll sell for 20. Even though something similar is in the discount aisle? Like I said, that's a different manufacturer. There were also stuff from the same manufacturer. No, those weren't hoodies, you know? There were also hoodies. There were also hoodies. I'm saying those were a different manufacturer. It was quite obvious Hagana intentionally brought the conversation back to square one, hoping to win through attrition. To be honest, I was kind of anxious, not knowing when the clerk would explode. However, although he was a grown man, it looked like he had gotten used to the moon's gravity from his build. There'd be no way I'd lose to him if we were to get into a fight. Thus, what was making me anxious was something much simpler. The problem was that going this far would net us a discount of at most 10 mules or so. The situation had already gotten volatile, and it would be ridiculous to never be able to come here again over a mere 10 mules. Look, if you have a problem with it, buy elsewhere. The clerk had finally snapped. Hagana stared fixedly at the man who was far taller than her. I'll make sure to remember the fact that such and such store clerk told me that. Gah. Just by looking at the second block shopping center, stores were obviously a dime a dozen. Everyone's struggling to survive, so it's not surprising that even a bit of a bad reputation could be fatal. Hagana thrusted at the sales clerk coldly. Damn. Okay, fine. 15 moves. She made it sound like she had given up. The clerk put his hand on his forehead and looked down as if he had just met some alien who couldn't understand him. And then suddenly he looked up. I had totally thought a fight was going to break out, but the clerk simply replied with a grimace. Okay, I get it. How about 17? Okay. Sheesh. I've never been such rough haggling before. I could totally understand how exploited the clerk felt. Going through all just that to save 3 mules was unfathomable to me. Here I thought I was shameless, but this turn of events showed me how surprisingly naive I was. Rather than pushing in an explosive confrontation with the store clerk just to save 3 mules, I'd rather eat them 3 mules with a smile. Making no effort to hide the fact that he was dealing with an annoying customer, he took the items from the cart and started ringing them up. And then, Hagana spoke up steadily. Well, I do think that there's a possibility that these other items would receive a discount. Oh boy. Both the store clerk and I rolled our eyes at Hagana. Hagana instantly looked back and said, Furthermore, I run a private tutoring service, and my students are talkative and growing fast. Do you understand what that means? Her silent message skewered the clerk. If this went well, he'd get new customers. If this went poorly, a bad reputation would spread. This was a big deal for a one-person shop caught in a lose-lose situation. Finally, oh my god. Finally, the clerk looked at me with supplication. What? You're going to push it onto me? And after I thought that, Hagana broke the silence with her clear voice. Take a further 5 mules off the total price. It wasn't an impossible compromise. The clerk's lips were quivering as if he'd bawl out Hagana any moment now. In the end, though, he lowered his head and gave Hagana a sum total of an 8 mule discount. Damn! You have got to be kidding me. I was dead tired coming out of the store. Rather than receiving a thankful gesture upon exiting, we received a hate-filled stare telling us to never come back again. But Hagana acted as if nothing happened. Right after exiting the store, she asked me for my money. 33 mules. Since she had gone with the flow and paid for everything, there was no issue with her asking for payment. But after having to watch all that haggling, I kept thinking I should be the one asking for compensation for mental distress. What? Nothing. Not having the guts to really say anything, I was about to pay her the 33 mules she wanted, but then I noticed something. 33 mules? What? Isn't that odd? What I bought was a 20 mule hoodie, 2 shirts for a total of 18 mules, and a 3 mule towel, right? Together, they should have been 41 mules. Just subtract 8 mules from that. That's what she said, but it gave me pause. No, I'm definitely paying you the 41 mules. I had exactly two 20 mule bills and one mule bill, so I gave them all to Hagana. 33 mules is enough. She stubbornly refused to take more than that. Weren't you the one who hagged down? Weren't you the one who haggled down the price? I didn't do a thing. Wow. It's like Hal was just sitting there like distressed as fuck. Like, I mean, if I was just sitting there at a clothing store, that freaking, I don't know, uh, yeah, at this one clothing department near a shopping mall, I'll be damn surprised. Aren't you the one who haggled down the price? I didn't do a thing. Regardless, just 33 mules is fine. Nothing at all. What the hell? I looked at Hagana, a bit phased. This was like winning the lottery for pocket change. I can pay you the full price. You can't. Why not? Hagana remained silent and turned away with a sour look. Sighing, I took the 41 mules and shoved it in her bag. Ah, it's not like I'm sweating over small change like that. Besides, that haggling was going overboard, you know. I stopped Hagana's hands from taking the bills back out. However, I didn't stop talking. I felt bad for the clerk and we wouldn't be able to go back again. That place sure had good prices according to reviews on the net. According to the reviews on the net. Scratching my head, I looked over at the entrance of the store. In Japan, where my parents came from, I heard that you'd stow salt when an annoying customer leaves the store. I was half expecting the clerk to come out holding a jar of salt any moment now. Looking at the big picture, didn't we lose out in the end? Besides, shouldn't you at least learn about the feelings of. When I got to that point in my speech, there was a loud grisha sound, and I found myself doubled over on the ground, clutching my shins. That hurt. What the hell are you doing? I was about to call her a bitch, but then totally froze. Shocking. Normally, were I to get kicked out of the blue, I'd fight back and throw my attacker onto the ground with me on top. Meanwhile, he'd be crying, howling, and getting the crap beaten out of him. However, in this case, I couldn't even get up. It was because Hagana was looking down at me with eyes about to let loose the torrents of the Nile. Ah? My head was swimming even more, so then when I got kicked suddenly, I had no clue what I should say. Like an idiot, I looked her right in the eyes, from which tears could start flowing any moment. What released me from my paralysis was Hagana wiping her tears brusquely, turning on her heel and walking away. I didn't have any time to stop her. I tried hurriedly to get up, but my shins hurt like crazy and I couldn't lift my foot, causing me to tumble over. My mind was wondering whether my legs were broken, but my eyes were fixed on Hagana. Through the be- Through the breaks in the fences, I saw her going down the stairs and trotting across the aerial corridor. The passersby all did a double take, and Hagana was wiping her eyes with her sleeves while running. She was crying, but I had no idea why. What the heck? Why did I have to get kicked in the shins, and why was she the one crying? Bearing the pain and the confusion, I somehow managed to get up and fix my bag on my back. It was then that I noticed. There were mule bills scattered all over the corridor. It was the 41 mules I shoved in her bag. I sighed while picking up the crumpled bills and stuffing them back in my pocket. What the heck just happened? Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. Something pissed her off from your words. I don't even freaking know. I don't know what's wrong with this dude. My shins were in pain and the sun was setting. All right. Around the time I returned to the church, it had already gotten dark, and the streets and fronts of buildings were lined with chairs and tables. For the people clad in worn out day laborers' clothing were enjoying a drink, having a light meal, or having a chat with each other. It was a small way to draw some enjoyment out of the evening. For someone like me who had not a shred of interest in the revelry, all I could think was that it was a hindrance to my usual strolls through town. My leg also hurt, so I had finally gotten back with more than a little difficulty. That took you a while. The church door had been bolted shut, so I pressed the intercom and had Lisa let me in. After opening the door, Lisa had a bewildered and shocked expression on her face as if something very strange had happened. As I entered this spacious and empty church, the door behind me closed. So, why did you make Hagana cry? That's exactly what I was about to say. Lisa sighed as she asked me that question. Just as I had finally gone back, to be questioned just like that was enough to make me want to start crying too. Like hell I know. Huh? Are you hurt? Of course, jeez, this is what happened after she lashed out and kicked me in the shin out of nowhere. Looking at my leg, Lisa said nothing as she touched her own shin. Look, I have no time to be angry about it. I had no idea what happened there, and it wasn't like you could do anything once she started crying. What the hell was that? And on top of that, as soon as I get back, I get pegged as the culprit? Sorry, sorry, don't be upset. As I kept on talking, Lisa tried to alleviate the situation. She placed her hands on my shoulders and apologized sincerely. I tried to shake her off, but Lisa nevertheless held tight and looked at me silently. She was rather good at that stance. Staying mad had started feeling silly, so I sat down on the couch. But even you would be at first concerned about her if a girl started crying, though, right, Hal? As irritating as it was, Lisa's reasoning was sound, so all I could was nod in agreement. Besides, I don't know what's going on either. I had totally thought you two would be coming home all friendly and such. Huh? At my rather displeased response, Lisa was taken aback. Calm down. She then put the palms of her hands together and looked at me. But Hagana didn't thank you? A dubious look crossed my face at Lisa's words, and the crease in my brow looked like it was going to twist itself. Huh? Thanks? There's no way she would have done that. And for what anyway? Huh? Hey, really, what happened? Lisa also had a dubious look on her face as she asked. I sighed and answered her back. I don't know. When we went clothing shopping, Hagana really laid down the hammer, haggling the price down, and when I was going to pay full price for my share, she insisted on giving me back the difference of the haggled price, but I didn't really do anything to deserve it. I said I didn't want the money after her unbelievable haggling, and then she kicked me in the shin. Just saying that made me remember how unreasonable it was. Besides, telling Lisa what I remembered was weird enough. I was against going into any more detail on the matter. Nevertheless, it seemed that just listening to me was giving Lisa a headache as she rubbed her temples. Then she sat in the chair facing me, leaned back, and spoke. I didn't really take into consideration her awkwardness. Huh? Lisa sighed deeply and raised her head. It was I who told her to haggle while going shopping with you. Huh? She is really good. She is really good at that sort of thing, but I see, of all things that happened. Wait, I don't understand what you mean. Ah, sorry. I will start from the beginning. After saying that, she looked behind her as if she had noticed something. Then she got up, opened the door to the main part of the building, and surveyed the other side. After that, she closed the door quietly, came back, and started talking. Well, remember what happened when Toyama came here? Ah, yeah. Toyama was probably really angry, right? Ah, yeah, that was really something. He has a daughter that is about Hagana's age, but they don't really get along. On the moon, moneylenders are also looked at disdainfully. Probably because of that, they stopped talking to each other. Wow, that's unfortunate. It's true. Despite what he does, he really is a good person. So, I wouldn't have been surprised if he had actually hit her. But you came in, took care of the interest payment, and saved the day, didn't you? And besides, Hagana wanted to hide that from me, and you did end up going along with her plan. Ah. After that, I then asked Hagana, did you thank him properly? That's certainly what Lisa would say, and I imagined Hagana's reaction. You're probably imagining it exactly right. I guess so. But it was true that you helped her out there, and I told her to properly thank you. Okay, then what about all that haggling? Yes, she's rather good at it after all. I told her to thank you by haggling over prices since you probably didn't have any more money left. That's why, well, you may not like the idea of it, but Hagana was probably in high spirits about it. Lisa's seemingly apologetic words were, in actuality, swirling around in my mind. It was true that Hagana's way of haggling was strange despite her harsh personality. I don't know if it's tsundere wise or I don't even know personality wise when it comes to Hagana, to be honest. If she always haggled that way, someone like Lisa would have warned her by now. No, well, it really was pretty bad. I wouldn't be able to go back to that shop. That bad? Jeez. Lisa put her hand over her forehead, perhaps wondering what else could be done. On top of that, though she was the one haggling without saying another word, she just handed me the difference. Certainly anyone would refuse it. You're alright. You weren't in the wrong. If anyone was wrong, it would be me. Ah, you didn't do no wrong, woman. I said that hurriedly, and I could see a tired smile under her hand. Thank you, but, woman? It wasn't your fault, Lisa. Okay, thank you. Lisa nodded her head and smiled, but I felt like I was getting a headache. I had no idea as to what I should do. This guy. In order to thank me, Hagana used those high-handed haggling tactics. On top of that, she thought that I was out of money and pushed the savings all onto me. Part of me wanted to say that if it was just a few moles, then it would have been better just to pay it up. No matter how you looked at it, it was an unlucky incident. There was no other way to say it. It would be strange for me to ask you to apologize to Hagana after all. I'm the victim here after all. I'm pretty bad when it comes to this kind of thing, though. Lisa probably gave advice to Hagana out of morality and the kindness of her heart, but those attempts completely backfired. However, I feel kind of sorry even if Lisa felt bummed out about it. Well, time will mend things. You don't hate her after all, right? Lisa looked directly at me and said that. Whether I disliked her or not, the only answer was to say no, I suppose. Or should I say, regardless of what would say, she did talk a bit about her hometown and about the smiles on her students' faces, so certainly she understood a thing or two about human emotions. Besides, this time it was an unfortunate turn of events due to Hagana's awkwardness, so there wasn't really a reason for me to feel resentful. I suppose not. Thank you. You ain't the one to be doing the thanking, Jeez, you really are foul-mouthed, aren't you? Lisa laughed sarcastically as she stood up from her chair. But, well, that was it. Ah. Well, why don't we get some food? You're hungry, right? Lisa smiled as she extended a hand toward me. I took her hand and stood up. What I felt in my mind was like the mental equivalent of a bad aftertaste, and I felt disappointment as it would be pointless to propose the idea of financial engineering to Hagana. That night, with the registration deadline looming, I signed up for the investment contest. Even on my own, I should have a chance at it. As I thought about how I didn't necessarily have complete confidence in myself, I soon fell asleep. Alright. I'm just gonna end this here for now. So, next part, we'll see what the third investment contest is like. So, like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.